Hey guys, this is Rob from RuinWorks. I'm bringing you the January release number 1. This is the Dwarven Crypts below the Dwarven Temple. This scene includes 3 levels, multiple traps, a secret key to open another secret door, then another puzzle to kind of get through these 3 rooms up here, and I'll go into all of this to introduce you to the scene and allow you to run it quite easily. I set everything up so it should be ready to go and easy to use. So without further ado, let's get into it. Like I said, the idea behind the scene is that PCs will come down these set of stairs from behind the Dwarven Temple, behind the statue, and start in this main room. Now, this central circle here in the middle is actually a key. So in the middle is a keyhole, which players can find further in the level, and then when they bring it back here and put it into the middle of the circle, it will rotate the circle. And they need to align this dark square with this dark circle over here. Each of the circles represents one of these 6 statues, so the secret door is behind the second statue right over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if PCs come into the room and notice this, they might find out that there is a secret door here, but they probably don't know how to activate it yet. Only controls should be through this keyhole. I'll explain the key when we get to that room. But to function this turning mechanism, on the right here, I have a little box called Rotator Controls. First button is Reset, so if anything ever messes up for whatever reason, you can just hit Reset and everything should go back to the original configuration. Hitting the forward button will rotate circle 45 degrees, and you need to rotate it until this black stone aligns with the black circle. And PCs would have to do this as well once they have the key. And then we're one step away now, so when it does align, the secret door does pull away. This will allow PCs into an area up here, which runs them through these 3 rooms. I'll also get to those later, but this is essentially the path to the royal burial chambers down here on the right. There's an interact point here, just with a small saying, "Guard ye backs, robbers of graves, no corpse thieves here shall escape these caves." Just a warning by the dwarves. And then there's another interaction point here. This can be hidden with the show and hide buttons that I have under the rotator controls. If you have the interaction point showing right away, it's a bit obvious to the PCs that they have to do something with the middle here. Until they have the key, I would probably keep this hidden. If they do a search, they might be able to find the keyhole, but they shouldn't be able to interact with it yet. I'll just note that the second button here is rotate to close. So once the door has been opened, by aligning these 2, you have to use the rotate to close button. This button should now be deactivated. So even though I'm clicking on it, nothing happens. I have to use the close button. And it only needs to be rotated 3 times. And then this door will close. Note there's also a lever up here that PCs can interact with once they're through to close or open this door as they see fit. And then there's also separate controls for the statues, so if you want to open it, you can just hit the open button. And the close button. So that's the main room. This is just a big mechanism for PCs to be able to open up this secret statue door. Throughout the map, there are portcullises blocking the way. I've noted these with little P numbers, so this is portcullis 2, P2. These can be opened and closed using the levers and interaction points labeled with the same number. So P2 lever would open the P2 door, just like the P1 wheel will open the P1 door. Just to demonstrate this, I'll bring out a token. So if I bring him closer so he's within the range of the interaction point, you can double click it. It asks him if he wants to activate it. Yes. Now you can see the P1 door has been opened. The doors also don't need to be activated by the interaction points. GMs, if you just click on the doors yourself, or secret doors, PCs can't see them, it'll play the noise and switch the image itself automatically. While we're on this level, I'll also run you through this sequence of rooms and doors. Essentially, PCs will enter into this room C. There's a lever here to open some of these doors without allow them passage into the first room. And on the right here is another interaction point which allows them to open a journal note. That journal note will show them a sequence of symbols, and the levers in the next 3 rooms need to be pulled in that order in order for them to progress to the royal burial chambers. So it's a hammer, axe, anvil, hammer, anvil. When you come into these rooms, each of them will have one of the symbols on the wall there, so they can understand that the lever represents that symbol. So if in this room it is the carving number 1, so when they open up the journal by clicking on the interaction point, it'll show a hammer. So hammer, axe, anvil, and then to go back, hit the hammer again, and then come back to room F to hit the anvil lever one more time. That can be done by the PCs by double clicking on the interaction points. However, if you need to do it manually for whatever reason, you can open them yourself. So for instance, this room C lever down here, if I want to push the lever to one direction, it'll just hit the little button here. You can see these doors fold down, form a bridge, and allow PCs to enter the next room. Now when they're in room D, they can pull the lever at the top. It'll open the next set of doors for them and close certain doors behind them. Now they can move over to room E, same thing, open and close the doors until they can get over to room F. Now you'll notice that this last door on the bottom that leads down to the royal chamber is closed, and when they activate the lever in room F, they'll be in here now. It does not open. Why doesn't it open? Because this drawbridge, this door F2, only opens when the first lever is pulled. So the trick to getting through this is to either leave a player in this room D, so that when players in F get here, they can then pull this lever and allow players to pull the second lever in this room. So when the lever D is pulled, door F2 opens and this other lever here, F2, activates. Then when they pull that, it'll open F3 and they can enter the royal crypts. So just to demonstrate, I can then do room D. This is equivalent to the PCs pulling the lever. You can see this door now opens, and this lever should be activated. So open F3. And now this door opens. And then lastly, they'll come to one last lever when they're finally through the entire room, because theoretically somebody is still trapped in the room over here. They can pull this, and all the doors and all the bridges form to allow everybody to get into the final area of the royal crypts. The royal crypts are based off of the brief history of Grunvyr that I had written back in the mount entrance scene. So this crypt on the left here is meant to be the crypt of Erenvyr, the first king, then this would be the second king. These interaction points allow players to see the statues of those relative kings, the same images that are shown in the entrance hall. Now this room G and this room H also have controls in the margins. I'll just look at room H here. You can either toggle the lid as GM, which has a lid on and lid off. That's what this interaction point does if players are to use it. And when it's off, you can also toggle the image inside. So I just have it empty in case you want to do something different than what I've created for the scene, or you can have the buried Dwarven King inside. That's about it for level 1. The rest of the dungeon is essentially on levels -1 and -2, figuring out how to get the key for this first chamber. So we'll go down to level -1. Just zoom out so you can get an idea of what it looks like. Room Q has a trap. Essentially this hashed area is a pressure plate, but it'll activate 75% of the time, and when it does so, a spear trap will happen. So I'll just zoom in a bit so you can see. Maybe it's easier if I bring a token in. So we have our token here. When he enters the hashed area, the GM is sent a message saying game is paused, someone has stepped on the pressure plate in this room. Do you want to activate the trap? So if you don't want to activate it, you can hit no, and the game will just be paused, but nothing will happen. If you hit yes, spears will come out of the walls, hit anybody that is in this room when the trap is triggered. So the reason I sent the message is just to allow GMs to either not activate the trap or to adjust the players, their locations, etc. You can also trigger the trap manually with the play button, where the sound plays and the spears come out. And if you don't want the trap to trigger automatically, you can just hit the pressure plate off, and now when anybody steps on it, it does not activate. So this is kind of how I set up all the traps in this dungeon. If they have a pressure plate, they will always send a message to the GM asking if they want to activate it, and you can turn on the pressure plate and turn it off as well if you don't want to use it. Also on this level, there is another pressure plate. This is a separate trap. So when this is triggered, the wall will burst out and you can apply damage to them. See, the wall has moved, the spring has sprung, and players can now enter the trap room itself. They can reset it themselves if they want by the interaction point. So there's 2 traps like that. Again, in the margins, I included some manual buttons. You just hit the reset button. Everything is set up again. The pressure plate is reactivated. You can see it's turned on. If you don't want it to activate, you can just click it off. This room is meant to be the resting place of Arda, the Mithril Queen, and there is a trap set up in this room as well. As noted in the margins for room N, the acid trap will spring whenever PCs use this interaction point to open up the sarcophagus. So if I take a player, take the token, double click on the interaction point, it says open close sarcophagus. If they say yes, acid seeps out and encompasses the area around the sarcophagus. If you want to reset the trap, you can just hit the reset button under room N. On the right here, just another trap. This is the bludgeoning wall trap 2, so it functions the same way as the first one that I've already shown you. It just goes out a bit further into the wall and actually pushes the token over when it activates. This last crypt here, again, has a pressure plate in front of it. This one will activate a fire trap when a player enters the hashed area again. I'm just going to hit yes, down plays, and flames shoot out. Okay, so we will go over to this last room here where PCs can find the key to activate the lock in room A. If we will look here, there are 3 portcullises that are guarding the entranceway to this room. They are P6, P7, P8. The reason these are in squares are because these are the ones that need to be open for PCs to be able to activate the key. Just so you would be aware which levers need to be pulled to open up the doors to get into this room. So P6, P7, P8. So P7 is right beside, but you can't access it directly from the same level. Going up to Crypt's -1, it's down here at the bottom of the screen is the manhole to take them down to get that one lever. P8 here is another one, the squared one. Has to be pulled from this room above to open another portcullis, and the last one here is P6. This one's a bit trickier to get to because you need to open P5 first to allow you into room O, and in room O you can open P9 and P10, which are these 2 secret doors, which allow access to the final lever here in P6. And once all those 3 portcullises have been opened, you would gain access to this room. I imagine this as a boss room where players will fight some sort of a golem or shield guardian guarding the key to the royal crypts. Back here as active tile 6 is the key. When players double click on this interaction point, they're asked if they want to pick up this item. If they do, the item will disappear as well as the interaction point will hide, so no one else can do the same thing. And when they double click on this interaction point, it will also give the token a unique tag. So as you can see here under tags for this token, there's currently nothing. It is a blank field. But if I use this token, double click and say take the item, if this is the key, I say yes. The item disappears and this interaction point is hidden. It's still there in the GM view, but it is hidden, so the players will no longer be able to see it, and it is also deactivated. Now when I open the token, you can see he has this GC key tag placed onto his character. This is important because only characters who have the GC key tag on their token can activate the interaction point to turn the key up in room A. I'll just demonstrate this quickly. So here we are back in room A with the token. I'll just start off by removing the tag and trying the interaction point. Insert item and turn. If you hit yes, you see a little notification pops up in your chat bar and it says nothing happens. Because he doesn't have that tag on the character, he doesn't have the right item to open this keyhole. However, if we add the tag back, GC-key, if I update the token and try again, insert item and turn, hit yes. Now he manages to start turning this key until he manages to line up the areas, and when he does, it'll open a secret door for him and his companions to progress through the dungeon. I think I touched on pretty much all the traps, pretty much on how the dungeon is meant to function. The main idea being, in order to get to the royal tombs, you have to function this secret door mechanism, and to get to the secret door mechanism, you must get to room W, which holds the key. To get to room W, you have to make sure you've opened up all the correct portcullises, and the levers for those are hidden in different areas in the dungeon. One last thing I should mention is, as always, in the top right of the scene, I have included the journal note, a quick link. Here it goes through all 27 rooms. I do try to provide reasoning for what they could be or what you might want to use them as. I do provide a link to the Brief History of Grunvyr in case you are interested in the different tombs and why they are themed the way they are. I got some general notes here on how the interaction points work as well as the portcullises. And then in all the rooms, I try to give as detailed guide as possible as to how to use the different rooms. So here for the rotating stone, I've described how all the buttons work, what they do, and then for like room C, where you're trying to get through these 3 rooms with all levers, I've given you a step-by-step. Just remember that there. It should be very helpful, and I've tried to cross-reference as best as I can. Thanks again. I will see you later this month.